All right, let's do this. Hello, 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 hello. Hmm. Is Blob not working? Uh-oh. For some reason, the blobs aren't working. Let me try resetting it. Give me just a second. Connect. Uh. Let's see if it's working. Oh, it's working now. See, I'm in there. Not very happy. There we go. Here we go. We got it to work. Okay. Here we go. Salutations, everybody, and welcome to the update stream. Good to see you guys. Feels good, man. Let's get straight to it, shall we? Got a lot to go over today. It's week 13. 13 weeks. We've been doing these update streams. We've been running about coming up on week 20, I think. Feels good, man. We're essentially about halfway through. And I think things are going really well, to be honest. Now we got some new stuff to go over, so I'll go straight through it. First up, we've completed the arena rule set for the most part, so that people can review and start like figuring out stuff they want to do. Downtime actions are being reviewed. I haven't quite finished exactly what I want them to be yet, but they should be finished soon, so that everybody kind of has a better idea of how downtime actions work, stuff like that. New campaign options have been posted. As a quick explanation, those new campaign options are for new groups, and then after the new group threshold has passed, then we will possibly be able to have possibly be able to have people that have any sort of connection with any of those types of group sets to be able to take up those missions instead. But the big thing is that it is meant for the new groups, which are currently still forming. As for people that want to sign up for those games, please feel free to do so, because all through June is us prepping the new groups for those games. And right now we have a few people, but their schedules aren't lining up, so there's still plenty of options and plenty of spaces for people that want to check that stuff out. Next is the changes to the Discord. There are a lot of changes coming to the Discord. So I want to kind of go over all the different plans that we have for them, which hopefully will assist people with setting up a Discord that I think is more efficient and more is able to actually cause a influx of people more easily. So here are the changes that we're considering. So to combat bot entrances, funneling conversations to the right place, and unnecessary bloat, we are going to create a landing channel for new users. This is meant to just kind of reposition where new players come in, new people that are new to the channel will be able to be seen by everybody in a more front-facing setting, so that they can be greeted and stuff like that. And that'll include like a revamp of the introduce yourself system and stuff like that. Also, it was suggested in our moderator meeting last night that a honeypot trap channel will be made to try and catch bots. I believe Van suggested that, and he's looking into that to see if we can do something with that, which would be really great to help kind of tune down the number of bots that get in. We're also going to move the campaign channels to the lower portions of the Discord and keep all of the channels that we want people to look at that are just anybody to be near the top. More specifically, the reason for that is we are going to be cutting out a lot of channel bloat and focusing basically top 6 channels that we want people to look at to be at the top of the Discord and to be focused in that regard. So top of the Discord, focus in that regard, and be able to, look at these 6 channels efficiently to get people integrated into the community as quickly as possible. We'll also be using a landing channel for new users to be able to select what channels they want to see to further cut down on channel bloat and to keep people really focus the Discord on integrating new people as much as possible. Next we have is we're going to privatize campaign voice channels. This is because if people want to hang out in their private channels with their groups to discuss things like, characters and whatnot, they should be able to do so without making other people feel like they're missing out. At the same time, there has been, and I've even been guilty of it, I suppose, of hanging out in voice channels that are in other people's groups, right? In other groups' voice channels, when they could easily be doing that in main voice and should be. So I'm definitely trying to champion this cause of getting people to hang out together in shared spaces and to combat cliques, because we don't want people to be, we don't want there to be an excessive segregation of people like that, right? But we also want to make sure that there's a space that maybe people don't want to be in the main chat. Maybe they don't want a lot of noise, but they'd also rather not be alone. I want to make sure that I can accommodate both sides, and then this just seems like the right way to do it. So this way nobody feels like they're left out, but with the intention that people are going to be hanging out in the main channels to promote more community. So, next thing is we want to get rid of extra channels, redundant and obsolete channels. This is just going more to channel bloat, because right now there's a lot of channels and it can confuse and disorient the eye. And essentially, we want to have 7 channels because of branding purposes, 7 channels that people care about, right? Like the main 7 channels. And that channel list is still being worked on by Ari and Van, but once they finish up all that, then we're going to have a proposed change system, and then we'll go through and make the changes. There will also be a change of the general layout of the entire Discord to try and make it cleaner, easier to understand. Centralization of those channels that can be centralized. And then the big change, I think, is replacing the old general channel with the Crossroads chat. So here's some interesting metrics for you guys. The Crossroads chat which is the shared chat that the players get that viewers can't type in, has half the number of active chatters that the general chat does, but it has almost twice the messages. So instead of separating those two pools, which honestly there doesn't need to be a reason to, we are going to take away the old general chat, keep the crossroads, and just have the ability that anybody can post there. And it shouldn't interrupt anything. Because the intention is that people can still use that to discuss things as they want to, but other people wanting to talk about stuff that's happening there or for D&D and everything, I think is great. Now, it's true that there might be something where, some players are talking about something that's happening in the game and then somebody else is trying to like talk about another thing. But I think that's a good problem to have and not really something that's going to be like a big deal, right? Because the Discord isn't active enough for that to really be a confusing or noise problem. Maybe if we grow to that point, then we can consider separating the channels again. But right now, look, this is a D&D server. So if the general chat is talking about D&D because the players are talking about D&D and what's happening, that's kind of the point anyway, if you guys get what I mean. So I think having viewers being able to participate in that conversation can only add to it and not really take away from it. And I really think that's the approach that we should do. We tried the experiment, and I think the experiment has run its course enough that the numbers have indicated that is the reality, is that we want the Discord to look active so that whenever a new person joins, they can see a conversation happening and they may feel invited to participate, and they will be able to, and I think that's important. So there's going to be more changes to the Discord from that to make things more efficient and straightforward, and I think that's going to be good. So, alrighty. So I shouldn't talk about Fulgrim's 50-year journey? What part of any of that did I make you think that you shouldn't say that? Like, what? Is there about to be a purge? I just went over all of it, Sonny. If you missed that part, you can go check it out. Anyway, next is the Arena rule set. So the Arena rule set will be decided into 3 different categories of competition. The first one will just be 1v1s, which will be determined purely by clashes. So your character build doesn't really matter for this. Anybody can be in a 1v1, and they can clash with the power of their Traveler's Soul. And this will be true for any sort of NPC they encounter, and this will be true for any other player character that they will that they'll face off against. I decided to do this because this will allow characters that are pure support builds to be able to actually participate. Secondarily, the game wasn't designed with PvP in mind, so there's that. And number 3, clashes are cool. They're just cool. So might as well use the cool thing. The next bit is 3v3 will be group fights. So that'll be players versus NPCs, not against other players. And then 5v5s will be the same thing, group fights of players versus NPC setups. For each of those, there will be a arena champion character path that will be available for the winner of the 1v1s, so the grand tournament winner. And then for the group fights, there will be prizes for them surviving their bouts and defeating certain challenges. So the arena, for the most part, will be a round-robin tournament of 1v1s that are determined by clashes, with the winner receiving the arena champion character path. And the group fights will be a series of increasingly harder encounters that if people make it to the end, then they can get a rather sizable reward. All canon characters can sign up, and the bouts are determined off-session in community nights, but are scheduled to happen canonically whenever the story allows. So what that means is it's like, if you were in town, and then we say, in this segment, arena battles occur, and then we don't do anything else with it in session, because then it's determined out of session through community nights as to what happened during that segment of time. This will allow for people to, if they have already left or if they're only in town for a short time, that they can be able to participate canonically in these arena battles without having to do it in the middle of their session. And I think that's a fair compromise to make sure that everyone has access to it, are able to participate, but it isn't interruptive to their game. And I think that's important. So groupings are player determined and are situated by their efforts for scheduling. Arenas must be during either official community night times or during Wednesday, Thursday community night times. So essentially, you don't have to play with your group. You can play with anybody that is a canonical character. You can make your own 3v3s. You can make your own 5v5s. It is completely up to all of you. However, it is up to you to make those determinations and to schedule yourselves during the appropriate community night times. Community night times are Saturday nights, Wednesday and Thursday nights. And yes, these will be streamed as normal. So they'll be recorded on YouTube, all kinds of stuff like that. Next up is items during the arena fights will be from a regulated shared list to represent wealth equality and the use of non-lethal weapons made by the Crowley faithful. So the idea behind this is that you will be able to choose from arena weapons, not from artifacts that you have and stuff, to ensure that fights are fair. And then finally, the next part is something I haven't decided on yet, which is arena reveal rules. So in the cases of the 3v3 and the 5v5s, where enemy mechanics will matter, I'm kind of up in the air about whether or not I want to reveal all of the possible arena challenges ahead of time with all of their abilities revealed, which will take away some of the mystery and grandeur of the game. But if I don't do that, then I run into the problem of the first people to face off against that particular enemy won't have any knowledge of it, and then other people that face off against it will have an advantage because they will have seen the fight already, right? This is also true that combat acumen and abilities like it will be less valuable if I do the first bit. So I don't know what I want to do with that just yet. As of right now, I think I'm leaning towards having them not be revealed, because I think that overall that's cleaner. And I suppose the advantage of fighting an enemy with less knowledge about it is that you are the first one who can defeat it. So there is an advantage for being first by having the earliest chance to like claim the title, I suppose. Treating like Christmas fights from Corvinus. Similar to that, yeah. But anyway, those are the arena rules, and they'll become effective probably later today, after I've cleaned them up. And then we'll post them, and then we can start taking signups for arena throwdowns, which I think would be great. The quest board has remained the same as it was last week, with no major updates. And I think that's pretty much it on my end of stuff for now. So we can open it up to questions. Nope, not that. Close that. What's that? Apologies. Turn back on my 6 Street Fighter background. I'm kind of torn on the Clash thing. Sure, my character's not made for 1v1 and would likely have a bigger chance in Clashes, but aren't arenas supposed to be won by 1v1 characters? Feels like no skill is involved, and it's random who becomes champion. Can you explain more on the decision? Precisely that reason. The number of characters that are quotations designed for 1v1 are very small, and we would not, like, the number of them are small. And I'd have to fill it in with a bunch of NPCs, which there are going to be some NPCs, obviously. I think it's better to have the ability for multiple people to participate realistically and using clashes that are cool and fun, as opposed to having people that have 1v1 specialized builds, which, to be honest, is not something people should be building for anyway in a game that is supposed to be about group play. That's how I feel about it. And that's why I made the decision. Also, clashes are cool. And true, I guess, there's no skill involved, but I would rather skill be involved in 3v3 and 5v5 than in 1v1. Yeah. Plus, I mean, after all, it's... the point of this is to be a spectacle. It's meant to be, like, fun. And clashes are a clean, always fair way to determine a victor. So. But team play will be straight up combat. Because people will actually get to, like, play with their builds. Because their builds will matter. Because there's support builds, healer builds, you know, combo builds, things like that, right? Will 3v3 be PvP too? No. 3v3 and 5v5 will be against NPCs. More specifically, 3v3 and 5v5 will be against harder and harder challenges. And then the group that makes it the furthest, or that defeats the, you know, the bigger and bigger challenges, will be able to claim more and more of a prize. Will you be doing the flavor text during the clashes like an arena announcer? I mean, I'll be doing the narration, yeah, but I don't know if I'll do it with a radio voice, though. Arcadum, can you tell people to clip funny moments more often? Yes, I could try to tell people to do that. What's the aftermath of Kazor's landing looking like after the overall attack? It's in repair still, but the people that came here are strong and resilient, and they bounce back pretty quickly. Oh, I was hoping 3v3 was PvP combat. So, alright, here. It seems I have to go into more detail. So, the reason I didn't want group fights to be PvP oriented is for a myriad of reasons. The biggest one being the game isn't designed for PvP. I never designed it for. This might sound harsh, but this rule set excoriates my excitement since this is one time players can fight without any consequences, which can create interesting character relationships, but only in PvP. Okay, look, in my experience, PvP, even consequenceless PvP, is going to produce bad feelings. It has no upside. If PvP happens, it should happen in an environment that is regulated by the story, not by like, there's no upside to it. And the only reason that PvP should happen is in very critical character moments, because people are just going to get hurt feelings. And there's also people that won't be able to participate in that at all because their builds aren't oriented towards it. I mean, that's just kind of the truth of the matter, guys. The game isn't designed for PvP. Like, there are also builds that are going to just be better at dealing with player characters because of their single target or multi-hit system. And there's also a lot of people that, their characters aren't built for PvP, but they're built for like monster fighting and stuff like that. And that's kind of the whole point. So, I mean, yeah, sure, people would be like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, wow, they could do that and fight. But it's like, you get into a situation where, and also you get into a situation where a character can just get absolutely humiliated as well by another player, even though it makes no sense canonically for that character to have done that. Right? And, it's not worth it. I understand that sentiment, but also it's the point of the arena that groups can just fight each other for fun. Yes, they can fight. They just don't fight each other. The game is built in the same vein that D&D is built, that it's meant to be players versus NPCs using teamwork to overcome their challenges. That's kind of the whole reason behind it. And I think that the pseudo-competitive nature of having player groups fight off against bigger and bigger challenges that are truly threatening, and then having some fail and some succeed, that's still competition. Like, it's still competition, right? And I think that's a good thing. Having player PvP being determined by clashing is, first of all, my rule for it anyway, for the most part. And second, it's just a funner and cooler way of doing it. What's the difference if the arena NPCs are built like player characters, that the DM can nerf their combat IQ? Well, because, Van, if I'm controlling them by the agreement socially, I'm playing NPCs and the feelings aren't hurt. And I trust myself over a player's maturity to not make another player feel like shit after they beat them. That's just the way that it is. So if I control them and I act as them, it's not going to fuck with them as much than if a player does. That's number one. Number two, I don't have to nerf any combat IQ. And I'm not going to do that. So it's going to be a real challenge. And number 3, there's also something to be said about how do I actively separate them in a way? There's also the logistics of it, right? Here's something else I don't think people have really thought about, which is one of the reasons I don't want to do it. Logistically, it's a pretty hard thing to do to make it to where players fight each other, especially in groups. Because what do people do whenever they play normal D&D, especially in this setting? What do? They take a long amount of time discussing with each other what their plans should be, how they should move, and what they should do. Am I supposed to separate those two groups into different areas, give them regulated planning time, have them meet up, we play out the round? But what if one of them has a question, or one of them has this, and one of them has this? They can't ask me that question without tipping the hand of what their group's plan is. So then I have to take them into another call and talk to them there, and then bring them back. You see, like, the logistics of it is just, it's not feasible, right? Not if I want people to actually be able to play as they normally would. That it's just not logistically sound to be able to do it, right? And then you have the problem that, well, if nobody can plan anything, then only people that have super simple builds or people that are really good at snap, decision making are going to be able to pull it off. And I'm going to be completely honest with you right now. That's like 4 people in the Discord that I would say would have a pretty good chance of doing that. And most people are going to make mistakes. They're going to fail in a way that their character wouldn't, and they're going to feel awful about it. So, to me, wait, what? However, I feel like it's less interesting than just fighting normally in the main story, since you don't even get meaningful rewards from the arena. What makes you think the rewards aren't going to be meaningful? I don't know where you're getting that, Roxas. Like, I never said that at all. In fact, I said quite the opposite, that there's a major reward, chain based off of challenges defeated. But yeah, that's one of the other big reasons I didn't want to do it, was the logistics of having players PvP each other in group fighting and settings is really fucking difficult to logistically set up, because you have to make sure that both sides can talk to each other. Like, I've tried this before in the living world. Like, it's horrible, because what ends up happening is that you don't want them to be in the same room with each other until the actual fight is resolved, which means I have to switch channels, and then they need to ask me something, and then we need to switch to those channels back if I want to give them the actual experience of fighting, right? That's just kind of the way that it is. And that's not even considering the risk of hurt feelings, the risk of saltiness, the risks of, people being sore winners. And then, of course, there's the risk of people feeling like, well, my build sucks because I lost against another player. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's not worth it. Interesting perspective on it, at least. Do you think it would be worth to ask people who have an arena interest if they want PvP? Like a poll? I mean, I could ask them if they want to. But, I'm going to be honest, Van, and I don't need to be insulting to any player. Most of the people that say that they are going to be okay with the smoke are not going to be okay with the smoke when their character gets absolutely fucking humiliated. Like people could do a poll and say, yeah, I totally want that. And then it happens to them, and then now their entire enjoyment is damaged over something that honestly wasn't necessary. I do want to be clear. PvP is not banned in the actual concourse of storytelling, because I've played in that environment where PvP was disallowed, and it's much, much, much worse. But PvP, by its very inclination, is not something that you want to explore unless absolutely necessary, even if there's no consequences to it, because it will damage like people's view of their characters. It's just the truth. And I know it's a truth that a lot of people are like, well, I don't see how that is. Just trust me on this one. Okay? Like, trust my experience. I've literally tried this before, and it does not work. So I'd rather stay away from it and do it in a different way. Like, competition is healthy, but I think that we put it up to where the competition is these massive challenges that people have to face, to which they can augment their builds and change their strategies to try and overcome. I would much rather have a group become the champion of their arena area, like 3v3 or 5v5, because they outplayed everyone else, not because they beat everyone else. Does that make sense? I think that's a better way of doing it. Do you remember Linrick? Oh yeah, I remember Linrick getting killed. Do you remember when what's his name? That God, who played, was it Afo, the cat guy that was super popular before he got creepy? And like he killed, was he the one that killed Linrick, or was it somebody else? There were 3 people that died in the living world that caused like people to lose their fucking minds. I thought it was, though it does cause delicious drama if you're not part of said PvP. I've had my fill of drama, my friend, for the remainder of my life. In-character drama is fine, but the problem with PvP is that it will cause out-of-character drama. But anyway, I think I've made my point. I know that it might disappoint some people, but I believe it's just better. It's not worth the damage it can do. So maybe in the future, I might do a thing where people can make non-canonical arena characters, and then we could do like a competition of some kind. But if we were going to do something like that, we would have to do it off season. So probably like during December or something. Oh, you mean yeah, the owl person. Yeah, Mop. Oh yeah, that's right. It was them, wasn't it? It was oh, it started with a C. The owl person. Yeah. Yeah, they were one of the people that said a bunch of awful shit about me, saying I wasn't paying artists and stuff when all the things went down. Yeah. What a bunch of bullshit. Anyway. Then I would suggest changing one win from Clash since it's basically a straight chance based, and at a point support characters are as good as warriors. Yeah, they should be, Roxas, because they're traveler souls. That's the point. I want all characters to be able to participate in the arena champion if they want to. That's the point. And technically speaking, the entire game is chance-based. So honestly, that argument doesn't really hold a lot of water, because if you have 2 samurais fight each other, or 2 parry builds fight off against each other, it's all just going to be a series of smaller clashes anyway. So I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm a fighting game player after all, so I'm interested in the opinion on it. Oh, believe me, Van, like, I would love to be able to design a system that incorporates PvP that's fair. I just don't have the time to do it. I'm still working on the base game, and I don't think making a D&D game that is designed with PvP in mind is really a good idea, because it's not, like, I'd have to make an alternate rule set to make it as fair as possible. Like, Canum, can I sign up to play in a campaign even though I have the same shitty laptop before? Yeah, you can sign up. Everyone should sign up if they want to. Like the new campaigns that we have that were just announced, like I think they're pretty good, and I'd love to see some people playing them. So I wanted to play in that living world, and that's how I ended up here for Aelenclast. Yeah. Anyway. Anybody have any other questions? That is so true. Sometimes people take this game way too seriously, they forget it's a game. I think looking at it that way can be kind of dismissive of people's emotional investment, because the game is at its best when people are emotionally invested. However, the cost of that emotional investment is that if they lose their character by unclean, unfair, or unsatisfying means, then they're going to lose out a lot on it, you know? I don't know. At the end of the day, it's up to you. But from a viewer's perspective and prospective player's perspective, it's not what I would be as interested in. I mean, that's fair. I do think that the fact that the arena is a small part of the game shouldn't be that impactful anyway. And I think once we start doing the community nights around it, people will realize the point of it is to make a spectacle that people can come together and cheer and do in-character gambling on. So there's that too. How cool are the arena champion paths for each of the archetypes? Well, there's one for each archetype. So no matter what the champion is, they get something out of it. New topic. How close are the faction classes? They still got some time, Knob. But I have the name list, I think. Let's see, did I go over that already? I think I have the list of the first batch. Think so. Where did I put that? Hold on, give me a second. I'm doing a quick search. So I think I have... Uh-oh. Oh dear, did this not save? I thought I did this. Okay, see if I can remember where I put it. Did I do it under character paths, maybe? Oh, not that one. Where did I put it? Class details? Ah, here we go. Yeah. Here we go. Here's something for you. Question, is Dolger frowned upon by the Wistarian community? He's frowned upon by every community. All right, I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but this is the faction class list. I'm still making adjustments to it, but this is probably where I'm going to start. And I separated them into the different archetypes and then into different categorical separations. The list isn't done yet, and the names aren't written in stone yet, but I'll give a general rundown. So for warrior side, you have a Pantheon-based class, which is Hallowed Blade, which is kind of like the chosen militant of whatever that particular deity is. So similar to how Cleric has different A cleric has different vow abilities based off of which aspect of their god they serve and which god they serve. And the same thing with the vow of sin for Kabbalist, I believe. The Hallowed Blade will have an ability that states you choose a deity, and then dependent on what deity that you choose, you get the ability to like gain proficiency in their preferred weapon, their preferred fighting style, and an access to several supernatural divine attack abilities and stuff, with the intention that this could be combined with Paladin for, you know, a very iconic effect or an iconic experience. But that's kind of the approach for that. And they're called Hallowed Blade. So they're applicable to every deity. Since Hallow just means divine. It doesn't actually mean like necessarily good or evil. So if I get this right, to use a tier 2 discipline, you need a weapon specialist, right? And if a player has 2 weapon specialists, can they use tier 2 disciplines? So to learn a tier 2 discipline, you have to have the prerequisite tier 1 disciplines known. Remember, you can learn as many disciplines as you want, but you only have slots to put those disciplines in based off of the number of specialists that you have in class features. Plan on getting art for Kimiko? Yes. An interesting story for BDT to confront their schizophrenic nature? Yes. That's already in progress. Okay, so that's the Hallowed Blade. Warfare. There's 3 classes for warrior, as you might have guessed. They are War Master, Sword Sage, and Glory Hound. So, War Master is a adaptation specialist with in regards to kind of like the approach I'm doing is like they have the ability to change tactical paradigm shifts with their various like party members. They can use the officer and tactician abilities like Gambit, like enhancing them and stuff like that. And also like I'm kind of just like a character who doesn't fight the same every fight and that sort of thing. It's kind of the approach for that. The Sword Sage will be based purely off of maximizing martial disciplines, enhancing them, combining them, and even like allowing some of them to break a few rules and stuff like that. And then there's Glory Hound, which is a full focused like courage character that uses the manipulation of courage and the production of courage in order to basically gamble it as they attack and do things, and a bunch of other really cool stuff. What's notable is that the Glory Hound does not gain temporary HP as normal from courage. They get something else instead, which I think is going to be really cool. For the arcane side, you have Tattooed Warrior. So this is like my approach to an unarmed warrior character that is not monastic or Taoist, and essentially they fight with their fists, but they have tattoos that are infused with, you know, think of it like Yakuza sort of thing, where like the tattoos give them strength and give them like abilities and effects and stuff, and then they punch people. I think it's going to be pretty cool. And then for the special part, there's the Hikari Knight. So, and everybody knows what that is. Under Faith, we have Favored Soul, Bishop, and Meditant. Favored Soul is going to be the same thing as Hallowed Blade, with the exception of instead of getting a vow, they get Spherum specializations depending on which deity they have. So they get specializations to spells from those spheres based off their deity. So Bishop is going to be like kind of like a oh God, how would I explain Bishop? A character that focuses on divine commands to like limit enemies and push them around and stuff like that. Like the command spell, like telling them to cease, drop their weapons, stuff like that. The meditant is going to be a sort of kind of like a war master, but for faith-based stuff, which allows you to change out vows and things like that. It'll be different from the Gregorian because the Gregorian specifically prays to different gods, whereas the meditant can use different aspects of the god that they follow. So they gain access to all four aspects of the deity that they kind of deal with, which allows them to shift their strategies, which I think is nice. Politically, the theocratic. So this one's going to be cool because this one focuses on the use of dogma and ritual, the ritualistic side of faith-based casting. So they'll be able to do a lot of out-of-character magic manipulations, which I think are really cool. I haven't quite figured out exactly what I want them to do, but in my mind's eye, the idea is a theocratic would do something like, I will perform a ritual in the town square to bring good feeling and cheer to everyone in preparation for the coming summer solstice, stuff like that. Like, kind of like big, impactful things that are not necessarily regulated to spell casting. Warfare. Okay, the chaplain it's a Warhammer priest. Like Warhammer 40k priest. It's a battle sister. It's a Adeptus Sororitas all together into one. The chaplain is you like do prayers as you kick people's asses. I think people are really going to enjoy this. It's going to be very cool. And the arcane version of factional version of this is the Weaver. So for those of you that are newer to the lore, the Weavers are casters that use the literal cords of life to cast their spells. They use the knots, the 6 knots, instead of the normal spherums to cast their spells. And they do it by directly tapping into the life stream. So they're very cool. And I'm looking forward to having a class that uses their whole thing. Underneath mana for the factional classes so far, we have Order Mage, which is a mage that uses pure law to cast. I don't know if I'm going to do one for each axis, but I definitely want to do the one for law because that's very prevalent in the game's past, like in Verum's past. So, Soulfire uses your HP to cast, similar to how the Lay Mage does it, but instead of gaining additional colors, you generate additional mana, and you actually get access to burning mana to cast with, which causes all kinds of different things like that, which will also couple well with other classes, such as like Immolator and stuff like that. Seer is a very out-of-combat oriented class that's all about divination. For those of you that may or may not know, I'm really into divination. It's probably my favorite school, other than abjuration, in the old school 5e and the older editions than that. So the seer will be able to do things like see snippets of the future and, figure stuff out using that. The Void Mage uses spells that exist outside of the spherums that use pure magic, like pure mana. So they'll have their own spell list that they get to choose from, and they're like colorless caster specialists. So colorless caster specialists, which I think will be very cool. And then finally, the Crystal Mage, which is based off of the use of Negatia and stuff like that happened during the time of Camp Last Stand. And essentially, the Crystal Mage summons their mana onto the battlefield as crystals that fill up squares that anybody can pick up and benefit from the mana from. And they get bonus points and effects by building constellations using those crystals. So it's kind of like a Star and Frost Mage sort of thing. That's kind of the vibe it gives off. Or not, I guess not constellations, but like symbols. I haven't figured it out exactly what I want it to be yet. Question, I have no idea what some races available in Prism look like. Is there a reference art for that? I will probably get a character race sheet made at some point. I don't know who's going to make it. Maybe Crow if she's up for it, because she can make them all look sexy. Will there be a tier 2 unarmed disciplines? Yes. Are the seers the same ones we saw in Calcatesh? Yes. And then for Wanderer, we have Master Spy, which is pretty straightforward. We have Soothsayer, which is a kind of like a false priest, like a kind of like how evangelists work. I haven't quite worked out exactly what its effects are going to be, but it's going to be something like that. Back Alley Blade will be just a knife fighting specialist, which I think is going to be pretty sick. Special is the White Widow Adherent, which is a faction class that I'm trying to explore what its special parameters are, but essentially it's you were chosen by the White Widow and all that kind of stuff. So, and then the Rum Runner, which is it's the mobster, like classical Italian like mafia sort of vibe. Very cool. And that's what I have so far. As I said, the list is still not complete. There's still a lot of things to think on, but what faction gives the cool using Chords of Life to do spells and such? That is the Weaver. Alrighty. Anything else, guys? Is there a hidden sun monastery just like there was for the moon? I might be confused because the groups in the Faceless Dungeon realistically kill the doppelganger at this level. Yeah, there's a sun monastery. In fact, it's already been hinted at in the Golden Temple. And can the groups in the Faceless Dungeon realistically kill the doppelganger at this level? Yes. Yes, they can. Any idea whether there'll be a power word class and faction? I'm probably going to make that a character path. Not necessarily. Well, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I want to start with easier to understand classes because power words are going to be complex. So, question, with Act 1 slowly but surely coming to a close, are there any of the groups that are basically a shoe-in for a Season 2 in Act 2? I don't know. We'll see. The intention of the switching of acts is that people will add themselves to the player pool, will play with new people, with new characters, and then we'll get a fresh start every year. Is Mo's wife come to Aelenclast? She's still on Anareth. She's still on Anareth, as is Mo. If the doppelganger fight is going to take place at the same time, if the parties get there at the same time, should that happen, I have something ready to handle it. Season 2 sounds like a myth. I don't know what you mean by that. What are the stats of my animal form, Fanglord? I know it's meant to be a non-combat form, but I'm still curious. I don't know yet, but I mean, it's not a combat form, so what I'll probably do is do a whole animal list, but I'm probably just going to make all of the household-esque animals the same, just to make things easier, so. How is your day? My day's going okay. Mo is still alive? How many years has it been since the Violet Saga? About 600, I think. But wait, hold on. Yeah, about 600, I think. I have to go back and actually look at my dates. I have to go back and look at my dates. But Mo was granted long life by his service, so. Let's see. What is he asking? Expected new campaign links going to be finished by the end of Act 1 or longer? They should be finished by the end of Act 1. What is the time period between the events in Corvinus to the events to take place in Aelenclast? That's actually already listed under the lore section that can be found on the Discord. I did all of that when I did the lore updates. That and all the other questions you have can be answered there, such as the current date and all that good stuff. Any parties that are close to a narrow manifestation? Probably not. I don't think I have anybody that's following him, so. Will there be more weapons like different short swords? I do plan on making more updates to the weapons and armor and stuff, but that's kind of low priority right now as I have other pieces of the game state I need to build out first. Is there a presence comparison with the Skyscar since the celestial bodies and guards are unable to intervene like the Leviathans? So I can't explain exactly what the Skyscar is, as that's spoilery time, but the same rules do apply, but the creatures that are invading Verum are doing so by breaking the old laws, and no one knows how they're able to do that yet. But yeah. All right, I'll probably give a couple more questions and then I got to get going. Do the Sharkai use titles like Lord for the nobles? Sharkai nobles are usually nobles through religious fanaticism. So they use the term like Kathe or Kathe Kal. Remember, Kal is a word that is used to promote greatness. Greatness in service is what its direct translation is. So anything that says Kathe Kal, anything with Kal essentially is how you would address somebody who is your superior. How will gold be effective if Steam advances in technology more, or will it be a filigree thing when the precious metal retains value when used in conjunction with Steam? The second part. Steam will become the new currency, but that doesn't mean gold gold doesn't become less valuable because it's not the main currency anymore. It's just that the main currency is now represented in its value as pertaining to gold. It's like if you have gold in real life right now, it's not worthless. You know what I mean? How does Dunabi get the Lord status? By becoming less schizophrenic. What's Wistar doing at the moment in Aelenclast? At the moment, I believe they are gearing up for their own expeditions to make settlements to the north of Kazor's Landing, at the northern end of the meadow, and other places. That's what most countries are doing. Most countries are setting out attempting to make secondary settlements so that they can grow their power and influence. This is especially true that once the Gnollish threat is taken care of, then there'll be more spreading, I guess, of the other settlements. How many new players do you still need for the next game? So right now we have 6 people signed up, but all of their schedules don't coincide. So I have like 2 and 3 possibilities. The answer to your question is I need a lot more. My goal is to make 2 to 3 more groups to fill out this year. So 15 people. The encampment we took out, is it being controlled by the landing now? I believe that area was retaken by gnolls when you left, but I'd have to go check. But the gnolls in the area are definitely weakened. So, did Atos and Kazor fight in the defense of the landing? Will they go out to fight themselves? Absolutely. Are there 3 other Gnoll priests to release, and will doing so save Howling Army from being persecuted for the release of an enemy god? I would say that to wait and see, because not all is as it seems. Alrighty. I think that should be good. Everybody got their questions answered, all that good stuff. Good times, guys. Hugs / and/or kisses. Lord Death question. Almost forgot. Since they're... Hold on, let me go back and read this. Hold on. Let me go read this again. It says it's been such a long time. Has there been any chance of Lord Death's return now that the traitor is finally gone? That is something that no player character has any semblance of access to, so I won't answer that one. Lord Death is definitely active, but I can't really explain anything more than that, because no character here has access to any of that information. So, the other question I wanted to ask was for Warlocks. If a new campaign were to do the Fey Druid campaign, and they have a different patron, that is something you will have to find out by actually signing up and playing. It's not impossible, though. All right, that's it. I gotta get going. Good game. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Thanks for supporting the channel. I will see you guys later tonight for Traveler's Delight.